After e4, c5, d4, we take the pawn, c3, we take the pawn, and knight takes. So the Smith-Morra is happening. As seen in previous videos, we have to go through e6 now. And after bishop c4, we play a6. So we have a familiar pattern, basically b5 and then bishop b7, and all we need to do is, this is an open game, so all we need to do is make sure that we survive the opening, we don't lose the game because of the many traps that the Smith-Morra players are going to try and organize against you, and then we go to a winning endgame. The move a4 kind of cancels the whole thing for white. It's basically there because these players don't want to deal with the b5 plan, because b5 now is not possible because of a4. But this also gives black a crucial tempo which will allow black to go to the endgame very comfortably. So let's see a few moves just as an example. Bishop to c5, developing quickly. This move doesn't really happen in any other Smith-Morra variation, but it can happen now because black is only 2 moves away from castling. Knight f3, d6, solid and boring. And after castling, knight to c6. White just doesn't make it in time to play the usual queen e2, rook d1 with a knight d5 threat because black is about to castle. For example, queen e2, knight e7, and after rook to d1, castle. White's got absolutely nothing here. After a move like bishop to g5, let's not forget here, by the way, that e5, exploiting the pin of this pawn, because the rook will be on the same file as the queen, is not possible because simply of d5. So after bishop to g5, queen to c7, unpinning the knight, and after rook a to c1, even white playing the absolute best moves, nothing's just going to happen. h6, asking a question to the bishop. Either way, let's say bishop h4, okay, knight g6 attacking the bishop, threatening to win the bishop pair and go to an even easier endgame. Then bishop g3 is justified, and now rook to d8. That's it, you have very easily resisted the Smith-Morra Gambit. White doesn't have a single advantage. I'm just going to play a few more moves to see how playing best moves by white and by black goes on. Best move now is prophylactic king to h1, also to remove the king from this very strong diagonal of the dark bishop, which cannot be attacked by white. I mean, it can, but we've got the whole diagonal as a shelter. Queen e7 by black. And after knight to e1, trying to go to a more useful square, also because from f3 the knight's going nowhere, right? It's got nowhere to go. So knight e1, bishop to d7, finishing development, and knight to d3, attacking the bishop. Black now plays knight to e5, ignoring this bishop because this is obviously good for the black player. If knight takes, then pawn takes back. We have this majority, 3 against 2, and the pawn advantage, so it's going to be even easier. So let's say, for example, take. Yes, we gave up the bishop, we're okay. And now we are also threatening to take the opponent bishop and simplify everything. So after bishop to b3, rook a to c8. And yeah, I'm going pretty far now. Usually I don't do this in my videos. I go through all the ideas and patterns and moves and traps that are necessary to understand a setup very well. In this case, I'm just been going on with best moves by both players. That's not something I usually do because it's kind of pointless. In this case, it's just to prove that this Smith-Morra Gambit is about neutralizing this gambit, and black has survived it in an excellent way. It's just in a position that is evaluated way favorable for black. Couple more moves, let's say f4 with an attack on the knight, getting aggressive, c4. And even after taking the knight and taking the bishop here, yeah, we're just happy to simplify. White didn't get anything out of this silly opening. In this position, after h6, one more mention, we went through bishop h4. What happens after bishop f4? Same thing, we played knight g6, and after bishop e3, let's say white had chosen f4 in order not to trade pieces, of course, but now he kind of has to go back. And knight g6 is very well placed. Black continues with bishop d7, so you learn the theme. One of the themes of the Smith-Morra is that, you know, you're looking forward to get taken in c5. You don't have a problem, even if white's attacking with a bishop or with a knight, you leave this bishop to be taken. So you got a majority, 3 against 2, by default will win. Let's have a look at this idea. Rook d2, rook f to d8, best move, and after the rooks are doubled up, nothing has been achieved. Black now plays bishop to e8, there's enough defense over d6. And now black has an idea of simply playing knight c to e5, very similar to earlier. It comes with an attack on the bishop, so if bishop plays bishop a2, black plays queen to a5, with the idea of playing b5. Position is evaluated -2, so I guess we have very successfully neutralized the Smith-Morra once again. So from the start, e4, c5, take the pawn in d4, c3, take, knight takes, e6, and after bishop c4, a6. So let's not go through a4 now, and let's go through white playing aggressive. So knight f3, and now b5. Bishop to b3, bishop to b7. And now white castles or plays queen e2. Either way, we're going to play knight c6. Let's quickly mention something that has to be added to the repertoire after queen e2 and knight c6. Knight e5 right now is met by knight to a5. Of course, we can't take the knight. For more information about this, you have to watch the first video of this series, which you can find in my channel. Anyway, the line I was going through now is this one. Bishop to f4 with the idea of going to c7 with the knight. Well, in this case, it's fine to take the knight, because after take, yeah, it comes with a check, but you can block with the queen and force a swap, so there's nothing. So in this position, white castles, knight c6. So right now, white has to play queen e2 and rook d1, the usual plan. What happens if bishop g5 comes straight away? Simply play bishop to e7. You've got double attack on the knight, and you should be able to swap very easily. A move like h4 wouldn't make sense here. If bishop takes, take back with the knight so you can castle straight away. So this move doesn't work. Sometimes though they do it after queen to e2. So now queen to e2, as you know, the theory goes on with knight g to e7, and now white can try bishop to g5. I used to find this move fairly annoying, but you just play knight to a5, attacking the bishop, threatening to isolate and double up white's pawns. So let's see two options here. Knight to d5. Black here takes the bishop, and we don't have to worry about an attack on the knight straight away because we've got a bishop defending as well. So after pawn takes back, you might still feel under pressure, but actually now you're okay because the bishop is no longer defending d5, so you can take the knight, and after pawn takes back, you can take a pawn all safely. So in this position, we went through knight d5 immediately. That doesn't work. So what happens after bishop to c2, preserving the bishop pair? Black now plays f6, crucial move to remember, and after the bishop moves, knight to g6, bishop to g3, and once again, black has successfully neutralized the Smith-Morra. Rook to c8 is the next move, and there's really nothing here. Rook to d1, pinning the pawn to the queen, the usual attack can feel very annoying, but there's just nothing. Black continues with bishop to c5, and the bishop is on this diagonal to stay, as we've seen at the beginning of the video. A move like a3 with the idea of b4 is simply met with bishop a7. Two ideas we're going to go through now here is a4. Taking will be silly because white could play something like bishop a4, putting a lot of pressure on this pawn. It's going to be annoying. It's going to pin it. We won't be able to ever push it. And so here it's crucial to play b4, attacking the knight. Knight e2 is not possible because it comes with a fork. So after knight b1, black will finally castle, and he's got a very serious advantage to play a winning endgame. So one more mention in this position, instead of a4, white can play knight to d4. Black's best move is to get out of this annoying pain of the rook, so queen to b6 is strong, and even white playing the most aggressive moves, it just doesn't lead anywhere. e5 is met by f5. You just gotta close things up here because the king is still in the center. It's not unsafe, but there's no point in swapping central stuff when your king is in the center. And after queen to h5, pinning the knight, let's go on a few best moves, and then we can close this. Knight to c4, attacking the pawn. It's free to take, it's not poisoned at all. b3 to save it, and now knight takes in e5. It's a stunning move because the knight in g6 is pinned, so it looks like it's free, but after bishop takes, black will castle, unpinning the knight, so we're threatening to take the bishop now, and when the bishop moves away, you can take the knight in c3. Positions evaluated around -4 already. Black has a plan of simply playing e5 and just push the central pawns